welcome back to Lost in Roshar, the ultimate journey through the Stormlight Archive. I'm Christian Colorful Kremling.
And I am Jimmy Stormblessed. Today we are diving into the very end of Warbreaker Part 3, which was for us like the last 20 chapters. We're going to be talking about full spoilers for all of Warbreaker and all of Stormlight Archive. So if you haven't read those things, get out of here. For everyone else, welcome back. Welcome to the family. Christian, it's another week of this show. How does that feel?
Indeed. You know what? It feels great. You were slipping into Soprano territory there with that intro.
Very close.
I felt that. I'll
We're
never
a
forget.
Soprano adjacent podcast, I feel. I make a lot of Soprano references and you understand them, which is good.
And I've started the rewatch too. It's just so bad.
I'm
calling him Sprentoni.
Yo, T. Hey, T. I got these VCIs here. Nobody.
How long until our impressions are not acceptable?
Oh, they weren't acceptable to begin with.
But yeah, no, it's good. It's good being back on the show. It's good finishing Warbreaker. I was just telling you now, I shut Warbreaker and I literally had Words of Radiance like ready on the table next to me so I could immediately jump into it.
Yeah, I got this trade paperback of the Way of Kings, and I guess it's time to put it up back on the shelf and pull down Words of Radiance. I don't have a leather bound for this though. That kind of sucks. Not yet. I will.
I wanted to make like a hype trailer for us going into Words of Radiance, and it was going to be like shots of the leather-bound Way of Kings, shots of the leather-bound Warbreaker, but then it would just cut to my crappy old, like 7-8-year-old copy of Words of Radiance.
Cover falling off the damn thing.
Yeah, if only we had the leather-bound, it would have looked sick. But so maybe that trailer is like a bad idea. But anyway, I'm excited for Words of Radiance. I jumped right into it. I read way ahead, and I'm just going to do an enjoyment read and then go back and read the chapters that we're going to discuss. Just because.
So you're going to be like super fresh.
Oh man, I'm going to be like deep into this book.
I'm not going to do anything. This is great.
Yeah, I'll just talk at you the whole time.
I'm fine with this.
But guys, not going to lie, like a lot of people hold the Way of Kings at the top of their list because nothing beats the first book in some people's eyes.
I'm a big first book guy.
Yeah, I get it. But for me, I started reading Words of Radiance. I'm like, this is 10 times better. This is like head and shoulders above of the book we just read for a year already. Yeah,
I think on a reread, I can see that. I can see the blemishes for Way of Kings for me. Like I obviously love that book, but going back through it as a reread, we had a lot of good times pulling out the lore and stuff. But I'm like, oh yeah, there's a reason why I remember Words of Radiance and Oathbringer both being so high on my list. And Way of Kings, even though I loved it, had sunk down as my third favorite. And then, you kind of, people will gaslight you and they're like, no, Way of Kings is actually the best. And you're like, maybe it was the best. I did have a great time reading that book. But now on the reread, I'm like, okay, I see why I had it third for so long. But yeah, I'm ready to read Words of Radiance. This Warbreaker nonsense got in the way.
How did you find it? How did you find it this week? Did you pace yourself or was it a last minute read?
I paced myself. It works out better that way. Yeah. Cramming 20 chapters in like a day is just not the way to go. It's very stressful. It makes me not want to do it. I'm like, ugh, this isn't fun. So I'm glad we're starting Words of Radiance. I want to stick with Stormlight.
Yeah, I learned from my mistake last week of cramming. And actually, right after we recorded last week, I was like, "Oh, Warbreaker is pretty interesting." Actually, now that I've talked about it for an hour, and I just started reading, and I was on a good trajectory for the week.
Talking about books with somebody, I think, is the best way of figuring out how you really feel. I mean, reading is a solitary activity, and you can absolutely have a valid and accurate opinion of what you went through. But many times, I've discussed books, and when I come out of it, I'm either like, "Man, I enjoyed that book a lot more than I realized." Like there was a lot going on there, which is most of the time. But then there are also times where I discuss a book and I go, yeah, that book actually wasn't that good. Now, was it? You start to think that way. So I think it just helps flush out what you went through with it and what you picked up on, and hearing someone else's take on it's great. Because when we left last episode, I was also fired up to read Warbreaker, and I had a good time. It's just I was, after we closed out Way of Kings, I was ready to get into Words.
Yeah. As were all the Stormlight fans, and this kind of ties back to what you were talking about on one of your live streams earlier this week. when you were talking about like the popular discourse around certain books, like
Yes,
they
there's a
just like
checklist.
permeate through everything, right? So and First Law came up. Everyone says the same thing about First Law.
The first book doesn't have a plot.
Yeah, and like the characters are terrible people, and you know all these things. But like if you read it without all of that attached to it, you could have very different. Like I agree with some of those things, but not all of them.
Yeah,
Um,
preconceived notions affect an experience without a doubt.
yeah, and there's obviously a lot of those with Stormlight, and also one of those is that Words of Radiance is a banger, so it's affecting me too. And I'm only three chapters in, but I'm telling you guys.
I'm just excited to read Words of Radiance so I can finally figure out what happens in which book, because I had some Words of Radiance in my mind for Way of Kings.
Yeah.
I had Way of Kings mixed up with Words of Radiance, and I know that I have Oathbringer and Words of Radiance mixed up in my head. So I remember a lot of stuff, but I don't remember when it happened. Like I have a friend who's he's about halfway through Rhythm of War, and I went to tell him some stuff, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not sure if this happened." And then I kind of asked him a probing question. He's like, "Yeah, that happened in like book 2," and I was like, "Oh, fair enough."
Yeah, look, I'm gonna go on a similar journey to your friend. I've only got 2 books left in the Cosmere. That is Tress and Elantris. And they're right now in my mind, they're on the back burner for more Stormlight rereads because I just want to be like a scholar for Wind and Truth. I just want to be there.
Well, some would say that you need to read Elantris to be
yeah, no, I do. But it will be it's a bit later in the year for Elantris. You know, once these books grip you, it's hard. It's hard to like let go. I think you'll get sucked into Words of Radiance too.
Yeah, I think I definitely will. Yeah. I mean, I had a moment this week where I was like, maybe I should just read all through Words of Radiance, Oathbringer, Rhythm of War, for book 5. But what I don't want to do is get burnt out,
That's the other thing.
That happened to me with Rhythm of War. The longer I've been away from it, the more I'm like, yeah, I'm fairly sure that affected my experience.
Yeah. No, that is a worry. But I also was so reassured because I've read a lot of extended Sanderson Cosmere work this year, and not all of it has been like my jam. Like I've enjoyed all of it, but some of it, it's like if this wasn't connected to my universe, this universe I love, it would be nothing that important to me. But then I like popped open Words of Radiance, and it's like I'm locked in. It's just like this is my thing. It makes perfect sense all of a sudden. Like
you're feeling it.
I'm feeling it, man. I'm vibing. And in terms of Sanderson update, not much. Like it's pretty quiet. It's just like books coming out.
He's a busy man.
Out. Yeah. I will shout out a cool video I watched yesterday. Daniel Green did a video about the Cosmere, which he hasn't done in a while. Like he hasn't really talked about it much, and he was talking about like the adaptation potential and comparing it to the MCU, which is like a common thing. But he talks about it in an interesting way, and it's a fun little. It kind of gets you excited to think about what the Cosmere might look like in 20 to 30 years.
Yeah.
And he was just like sort of comparing, okay, this is by one author. It's very cohesive. Tie-ins are very much planned. MCU is like 15,000 authors and different directors and all these different visions. But if we handle this with care and like transfer this like care and attention to detail that Brandon's put into it, into like the visual medium, we could be in for like an absolute behemoth of a property, right?
Oh, without a doubt. Now I'm gonna say some things that might come off pessimistic, but these are things to think about when it comes to on-screen things. And this is coming from someone who's living through a Song of Ice and Fire's adaptation phase for the last 10 years in that universe. But also we could look at Star Wars. We could look at any large property with interconnected movies. The reason why the Cosmere works is because it's Brandon Sanderson's. Brandon Sanderson is the only cook in the kitchen. Now, I know he brought in Dan Wells, but he is the singular source of truth when it comes to Cosmere. Whenever you go into the visual medium, now I know Sanderson is aware of pitfalls, and so I know he's going to do everything he can to maintain control and yada yada yada. But even when it comes to directing and the feel of those movies, very rare do you see one person work on all shows, right? Now, to give you an example, we have Ryan Condell doing House of the Dragon. Ryan Condell is awesome. He is best friends with George. George has actually let him in on the end of Dunk and Egg, which is crazy.
Wow.
Like Ryan Condell gets it. He also just gets the story. He understands what he's doing. And I'm apprehensive because he's not in charge of Dunk and Egg. He's not going to be in charge of Aegon the Conqueror either. And I think those shows are probably still going to be pretty good. I think Aegon the Conqueror could be like fantastic. But it's one of those things like you might get a director that misses the feel. And whenever you start going into the visual medium, you know, you're basically not going to have the same person doing every single thing.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's where the worry comes with on-screen adaptations. And then obviously the biggest issue are the companies that own these things and the board that wants certain things in there because their buddy liked it. And on their last golf outing, they said that they wanted it. You know, these are the things that are always, that's just how it is. So I won't even mention all that, but that's the only thing, you know, when I think about these big visual things and like what it could become, you know, there's Marvel stuff that feels amazing. And then there's She-Hulk, you know, I just,
there's a lot of like subpar Marvel. So I haven't, like, after Infinity War and all of that, I pretty much switched off. I felt like we did this thing, you know, it's done.
Yeah. And we could talk about why that is or whatever. But I mean, one of the congruent things in all of the issues for things is like there's too many cooks in the kitchen where different people are handling different things. And if a lot of projects are happening at once, one can sift through the cracks, I guess. So that's one thing to kind of consider, I think, whenever you talk about like a big interconnected media universe out there. But the nice thing is that because Sanderson is the single source of truth for the Cosmere, that you'll always have the books to fall back on and in how they are connected and how they're executed, which is great. Some people have a lot of trouble separating those two things, but I am never, thankfully I'm not one of them. So they can do whatever they want on screen with Game of Thrones or Song of Fire, and it's never going to ruin the experience that I've had with those books, which is fantastic. And hopefully, you know, in the future, all these things go well. But even if it doesn't, the Cosmere still exists in prose format for people to read and to enjoy and to remember. So I don't know. There's clearly a humongous ceiling of potential for
for so many reasons. But yeah, like you said, it has to be handled in that careful way, which is very tough to do. And there's so many cooks in the kitchen, which is the scary thing. But hey, if it all goes well, it'll be amazing. If not, like you said, we have the interconnected universe that, you know, that we want with a singular vision right here, right now. And we've just finished one of those books, good old Warbreaker, with a controversial ending. Some people don't like it. Some people say it piddles out into nothing. Even Sanderson in his annotations was a bit like, yeah, I know, I understand.
If you ever wanted to counterpoint that he always does amazing endings, I do think that this is one you could point to and say, maybe not the best, but hey, dude, you forgot the poll of the week.
Oh, I skipped right ahead. I forgot I did a poll. That's right. I was very organized. I did this ages ago. All right, let's have a look. Let's have a look. This was about favorite character point of views in Warbreaker. Very tight poll, I'm sure. But no. So we've got our point of view characters, Vasha, Vivenna, or Vivina, as Sanderson himself pronounced, and I'm still not okay with it. We've got Ciri and Lightsong. Who'd you vote for, Jimmy? Who was your favorite?
I had two accounts and I voted Lightsong on both. So.
Nice. He skewed the results.
I did.
But look, Lightsong with over half the votes at 51%. Vasha 30, Ciri 12, and Vivenna 8. I thought Ciri would be much, much higher, to be honest, because even if you maybe don't like her voice as much, I think like her chapters are extremely interesting because it's only a look at the God King.
I mean, if you did pairs, then yes.
Sure.
Because Susbron being involved in that is really great. Vasher, actually, but the funny thing is, I think Vasher is succeeding because of his relation to being close to Nightblood, which everyone thinks is the best part of the book, I imagine. So Lightsong, though, as just a clear single cut character for me, you know, he's one of my favorite characters from Sanderson, and the humor does not land all the time from Lightsong, but it lands more than any other character that he's ever written for me. So and Lightsong also has a really good backstory. Like his arc is really nice in this book. Lightsong, it would definitely be probably in the high tier, A S tier for me for like a character tier ranking for Sanderson.
I agree.
So I'm not shocked. I actually thought there was a lot more Vivenna lovers out there. And I'm calling her Vivenna. I'm not calling her Vivina. I don't care, Sanderson. Spelled with two E's, okay? Vivenna. I thought, and there's a couple posts on here saying she's underrated. So I don't like Vivenna actually very much at all. In fact, the fact that she's the one that's in Stormlight, I'm like, could we have not got Ciri over here?
Yeah.
Could we, but there are people who like Vivenna, and we had a couple comments here saying she's underrated, which is cool. I'm glad other people have other favorites and have differing opinions. I'm a little shocked it's as low as 8%. I thought it'd be a little bit higher than that. Like I definitely thought like Vasher, Ciri, and Vivenna would be pretty neck and neck, but that's not the case.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, like, because we're limited with YouTube polls. If we could like do a 1 to 4 ranking and then see how the percentages look, it'd probably look quite different.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but I will say I enjoyed Vivenna a lot more in this last section, especially by the ending. I enjoyed her more as a character. But Lightsong, obviously, I voted for him too. For me, like, you guys have heard it. I read Alloy of Mid and the rest this year, which were not as mid, but still. And, Wayne, for me and for Jimmy and I, it's just mostly a miss with the humor and the banter.
Oh, no, Wayne's a complete miss with me. It's not.
Yeah.
It's a complete
It's complete with Jimmy, mostly for me. I liked what he did with Wayne's character by the end, but the humor I often just found kind of cringy. But Lightsong, for me, is like Sanderson has hit the sweet spot with the quirky, the quirky Sanderson humor. It's like he's done it best with Lightsong for me personally. It's where it's worked like 9 times out of 10. And I just love, we'll get into it, but I love how the rug is pulled or awakened from under us at the end of Warbreaker, where it's just like, bam, Joe Abercrombie novel just for a chapter, just out of nowhere. It's like Sanderson, like, he had some real guts in this book. The man went for it. Even though the ending has its flaws, the characters are great, and Lightsong, a well-deserved win this week on the poll of the week, I think.
I agree. Yeah. Lightsong lovers unite. We did it. We did it.
Yeah. We did it. What a great guy. But I will give Vivenna cred. By the end when she's walking off into the sunset, like, I'm gonna change my life. I was like, yeah, you do that, Vivenna. I'll see you in Oathbringer. We'll have a chat.
And I do like where she ends up, and by the end of the book, it's all gravy. So I think maybe this is my Cosmere hot take. I don't really mind the end of Warbreaker as much as some people seem to. I mean, I have a friend that says, man, the ending of Warbreaker ruined that book for me. And I'm
really?
like, wow,
okay,
dang, but I get it. It's not often where you say the high point of a Sanderson book is not the ending. But for me, I actually think I like the rest of the book more than the ending. But I still like the ending. Like, I don't think it's horrible. So
I think the setup's the best part.
Yeah.
I think part 1 was the best part of the book. First 20 chapters.
Completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Asher being mysterious, Lightsong being confused along with us and also being humorous, and Ciri going off, and Susprawn's, the realization that Susprawn isn't this benevolent dictator and awful person. And there's a lot of really good stuff there. And he does do interesting stuff throughout the book. Let's talk about the ending. I think that Susprawn getting his tongue back and healed because Lightsong ends up giving up his life is very impactful. And then we find out that's not the only time this has happened in Lightsong's life as well. And when you look back on how many good times we had with Lightsong, I think it was a really bittersweet end.
Oh, man. And it's a perma-death. It's a real
It
death.
Better be.
Yeah, it better be. With how much he's putting off the sequel, it may as well be a permadeath. It's not gonna happen. But even Blushweaver too, I was like, oh my god, this is insane. This is crazy. But no, Lightsong's death was freaking chill-inducing stuff, because we get the whole sequence, and I'm curious as to why he sees that. before he dies. Like he actually like it seems like he has a Dalinar-esque, oh, I'm back in the past and this is how I died moment. Like, why does that happen? There's probably a reason. But the fact that I don't know, it's just like that light bulb moment of like light song sacrifice will be for the God King to get his tongue back to speak again. It's like narratives tying up in a bow very nicely.
It definitely was. And I don't know. I just felt very satisfied with Light Song's arc. And one of the few times I feel anymore that Sanderson didn't bring somebody back. Now it is a bit of a sequel bait, the ending.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, I don't think that that's a controversial thing to say.
No.
Has he talked about why it's taking him so long to write Warbreaker 2? Is it just because of the chronological order of things, or?
Probably, and like probably it's not as impactful to the greater Cosmere story, I think, because like he talked about it in the annotations. He's like, "Yep, you know, Vasher is going to head off to this other city where one of the other scholars is starting up a problem, and him and Viven are going to sort it out." And they're like, oh, and he's like, oh yeah, and Tongfa will go down a dark path in the next book. Like he's just got, it's like another conflict on this cool planet.
Yeah, but who knows where that conflict came from? I'm going to be a little bit differing here. I think it might end up having tons of Cosmere connections.
Oh, okay.
And I think that might be why it's not written, because we do know Warbreaker 2 happens before the Stormlight scenes with Vasher, right?
Yeah, I'd assume so, yeah.
So something big has happened to where then Vasher's going off this other land. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of stuff that has to happen to get Nightblood in the Stormlight Archive. And I don't see how that happens without big reveals.
All right, well, that's a very fair assessment.
Is there going to be a Warbreaker 3 or no?
I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, I haven't heard it.
But I assume like the greater focus will be on that Nightblood connection, because it's like the working title is Nightblood. Man, when Vasher like finally used Nightblood at the end of this book, it was insane. It was so good.
Yeah, Nightblood lives up to the hype for me.
Oh,
it's so cool. And then to give, this sword basically a perspective here is just really something for it to deliver. Because sometimes whenever you give perspectives to things that aren't or are so cool, sometimes the perspective can like kind of let you down, or the big scene can let you down. It doesn't let down your. I think the Nightblood stuff delivers.
Yeah, I agree. There's a few little things about Nightblood I noticed this time around that I might have not noticed, I think, on my first read. And like there's a point where Viven is looking for Vasher, and then Nightblood like puts an image in her head to show her where it is. And I didn't know he could do that. I was like, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, what's that all about?
Yeah, like he's like occupying your head, and I haven't even seen like a bonded Spren do that. So I was like, that's cool. He's
yeah,
like
Nightblood is like, I think, endgame Cosmere levels.
Yeah, he's crazy. And there was like a couple of little details, like one-liners. I was like, oh yeah, when Vasher was talking about, there's like he's thinking, and he remembers seeing awakened ropes help siege a city in the past. I'm like, they're using like, or a cloth as like trebuchets in the past. I'm like, this could be so amazing to see this. But Sanderson goes into Nightblood a little bit more in the annotations, and he was talking about sort of how his mind works, and he was sort of saying like on the day he was created, those like his first impressions are like hardwired into him. Like Vasher and Denth will always be friends, Shashara will always be alive, and like certain things are constants in his head. Like the first day he was alive, that will forever be his like current impression of things, which is just interesting, right? Yeah. It's very, very cool.
I wonder how that will affect the decisions that happen with Nightblood later.
Yeah, like if that's how his brain works, he's having a hell of a day.
Like, and is that also continuous? So like his first impressions on Roshar, like will those also stay canon?
That's a good question. I don't think so. I think it's different.
So it's literally just the day he was created. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Den's dead. So
true. In a very, I liked that, like how that was the trick that he used. Although at the same point, I'm like, Denth is like however many 100 years old. He hadn't thought about that trick. you know, it was like a satisfying plot moment. I'm like, oh, cool. But then I was like, yo, like, you never thought to do that, you know? Come on, mate.
Yeah. I think there's a little bit of suspension of disbelief
Yeah,
there.
a little bit.
That
Yeah.
you kind of have to look past it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Nightblood. I mean, Nightblood's the most interesting thing of Warbreaker. Like, God bless Vasher and Vivenna, but like, Nightblood being in Stormlight's what we actually care about. I think.
Oh man, dude, the fact, like, I mean, you know what? The fact, like, Nightblood is terrifying because not only that is it terrifying, the way he just like burns through the lifeless. They're all disintegrated. It's like a shard blade on steroids, right? Then he's running through the palace and like walls are just disappearing. It's like not that he could just slice through walls, like they cease to exist. It like absorbs everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, we see the full extent of that at the end of Rhythm of War. Like the potential, the fact that it could kill a shard is just
Does Nightblood get used in the duel, the Battle of Champions, you think? I don't think, but
you know what I got to check up on? Where the heck Nightblood is actually at the end of Rhythm of War. Because Taravandrian uses it and then becomes Odium. But where the heck is he now? Where is Nightblood? What happened to it?
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't think Seth has it again, does he? I don't know.
I can't remember. I have no idea.
But hey, it's in the hands of supposedly, let's say there's a chance that Taravandrian still has it, and then it's in the hands of Odium, who's making this. Maybe his champion will use Nightblood, which is very exciting to think about.
Yeah, I mean, his champion's obviously going to be Gavilar, so I'm sold. No, I'm sold. I'm sold
because of the statues at the end of this,
bro. Listen to this. Vivenna, Ciri, and Susbron wait as Vasher is given a garment to change into, ensure he couldn't awaken anything. Vasher talks to Susbron, telling him that he's the reason the god's tongue was cut out. I'm actually reading the wrong one. Hold on.
This is a running joke with you.
No. Here we go. I am reading the right thing, actually.
Okay.
Now appearing as a return, Susbron realizes who Vasher is and drops to his knee. Vasher gives Susbron the command phrase to Kalad's phantoms, the Denir statues in the city, which contained awakened human bones.
All right, so this is where, okay, if you don't mind me jumping in, this
please
is where
do.
I was thinking about you this whole time. I'm like, let's give Jimmy this theory. Yeah, I mean, that's often my state of mind in the time between our episodes, just thinking of Jimmy, waiting for this moment. But I was thinking, I'm like, all right, the Gavilar theory, can we make this work? And what he's like done to like a little asterisk is it's like in Stormlight, they're soul cast into a statue. In Warbreaker, their bones encased in stone or whatever, that are, the bones are then awakened. And Vasher kind of spoke about that earlier in the book. Like it's a little trick you do. You awaken the bones, but like wrap them in something. And then I thought, if you're soul cast into something, are your bones like within the encasing, or are your bones like are you just like smushed into one thing? So could you still be awakened is the question there. A bit of a Cosmere math question.
Okay. Well, this is interesting, right? Because someone posted a on the Stormlight Archive subreddit like 4 years ago. Someone posted about this.
Okay. Right.
And it said, I have a theory at some point that the statue that was soul cast of Gavilar's body will be awakened. From a real matic standpoint, it would probably be a comparatively easier than awakening most other stone because it was Gavilar's body. I also wonder if it would maybe retain some of Gavilar's personality or even memories because of the lingering spiritual connection. This is similar to the way Kalad's phantoms work. They require less breaths to awaken because they're built around human skeletons. Also, from an emotional standpoint, I think it'd be really cool that the character moment seeing the Cullens dealing with that, especially Navani, Yasna, and Dalinar. And someone left a comment and said, I think I already saw a Sanderson quote about this and said that it would make awakening much easier, but the soul is long gone. So it would just be commanding a command following statue. So I think that
Sanderson didn't shut down the idea. He just gave a little bit of info there, which is fun.
And maybe he's just answering how it would work, right? Okay, so like it would just be a statue. He's just saying, yeah, sure, it's possible, but it would just be a statue. And if that is the case, I think that it could still be pretty impactful. Like,
yeah, because you're seeing him, which is Like it would
And
be Dalinar versus brother. Like no matter how you do it, it's impactful. Yeah.
yeah, it's also like we always talk about like, well, what if we could bring back, and this is an American thing, so bear with me, Christian.
Okay.
Like if we could bring back, George Washington or Abraham Lincoln and show him America, like what would he do? What the hell did you guys do to this thing? Or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing. Like what would Gavilar think with everything that has changed since his death that really was, catapulted into motion by his death? And also his brother's with his wife. I mean, there's a lot of drama.
I didn't even consider that.
Oh, are you kidding?
Like,
oh,
I came back to life, and my brother's with my ex,
and he let my son die.
Yes,
brother.
But the thing is, Sanderson's like, well, he would just be a hunk of rock. So sadly, we wouldn't get any of that. But
maybe we've missed something. Maybe Gavilar accounted for this somehow. I mean, Gavilar was a schemer after all, and I don't know. Hey, listen,
I would like to see. Hey, we don't like the comeback from death trope, except for Gavilar.
Now, this would be set up through Warbreaker in 4 books over 10 years. I mean, I would be fine with this.
This would be the return.
Yeah, this would be the return.
Well,
it's more like being robbed of an emotional moment. That's why
there's a lot of work with because Gavilar is so central. He's like Ned. He's gone quickly, but we talk about him constantly.
Hell, I mean, you could compare him to Tywin. I think Tywin's a better example because of the family and how dysfunctional.
True. But I just mean,
Ned's
early on in the story, you lose someone, and they're still got the most named character who's not alive.
Well, hey, if you want to go down a Song of Ice and Fire rabbit hole, where are Ned's bones?
In the crypt under Winterfell.
Are you sure?
Oh yeah, don't do this, man. I want to theorize. Don't do it after the show.
We'll never know because don't worry about it. You don't need to think about it.
No, we're in King's Landing. So no, okay. See, this is the problem. Okay, moving on. This is how I started.
I wish you guys could see Christian. His eyes started darting side to side.
It's like I'm looking at my Mark Simonetti prints.
I saw him open up another Chrome tab. He was ready to go. But Gavilar is that central character. That is not something that you see a lot of in fantasy, is like that big central character that passes and then them coming back,
And hey, he starts off book 5. We all say what you will. If you don't want to read the prologue, that's fine, but we all know it's his perspective, which was...
Yeah, Sanderson told everyone that.
If you're going to bring him back, that's the book to do it. So we'll find out in a few months.
I mean, it comes down to if it's not, let's say it's not Gavilar. Is it going to be, we talked about Kaladin. We talked about do you know the people on your side's hearts? And no, I do not. And Wit's yeah, that's smart. Could Kaladin be corrupted? Or is it going to be Adolin? I've seen a lot of people,
he's a big candidate. Yeah.
Who else, who would you pick? Who would you say is the easy pick for the champion? Don't say baby.
I rest my case. Look, I mean, the Odium champions talk, we've gone around so many times. In terms of corruption, though, corrupted Kaladin does nothing for me. I don't know. It would just frustrate me. I know he'd be all right in the end. I don't know. It wouldn't work. I can't really formulate why it doesn't work for me. It all goes back to when Buzz switches with normal Buzz in Toy Story 2 and nobody realizes that there's been a switch. And I fast forwarded that moment as a kid because I hate misunderstandings. And I just feel like it would just be a big old misunderstanding plot. It's like Kaladin with the boot and Shallan when they met. I'm like, if he drags this on and they don't realize who each other are for another more pages, I'm going to die. But whereas if it's...
You must have hated the Wheel of Time.
Oh my God. Well, yeah, I DNF the Wheel of Time. But look, corrupted Dalinar, that's different. Because now we've got the Blackthorn, baby. And
he has a history of...
Yeah, there's something about it that works. I don't know. Unpack my mindset, Jimmy. You're good at this literary stuff. Why does Dalinar work, but Kaladin doesn't? What's that
because
about?
he has shown I mean, obviously it turned into this magical thing about the thrill, but like he has been susceptible to treachery in the past or to bad decisions, right? So I think that would work. I do wonder if like processing the grief of his, in the shortcomings he felt, like what could I have done different from my brother or even Elhokar, like if that could be somehow manipulated. I wonder. I very much wonder. I think another possible champion. This is where I'm going to get a little bit out here. Okay, you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Eshonai.
I mean,
she's in the Chasm Fiend, right?
Well, I didn't know.
No, she is. Okay. Stop it. Right. She is. That's it.
So it's someone versus a giant Eshonai Chasm Fiend.
I mean, that's pretty epic.
I mean, she's like, you pushed me off the edge. I'm back.
Bro.
I leveled up. I don't know, dude. Hey, we can't be wrong. This is our last chance to not be wrong. So
yeah, that's right.
Everything's a possibility.
Yeah, it's coming. A couple months, yeah. We'll know what's actually what's really good with it. But
I've got a feeling he's gonna like flip it on its head. Like it'll be
the baby.
Well, not the baby. Like it just might not even happen, or it might happen completely in a different way that we couldn't even theorize for. He'll have one up on us as he always does. Yeah. And this whole like who will it be thing will be absolute nonsense.
Maybe it'll be Vasher.
Oh man, I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind seeing someone with different magic systems come in. Vasher versus Kaladin was really fun. But yeah, look, it could be. I mean, it could be anyone.
Yeah,
except the baby, because we hate that theory.
Except for the baby. I still like the theory.
Me too, man. Me too.
But I don't know, man. Reading this end and with the bones in the stat, I just am sitting there like it almost feels too obvious, But you know what it actually probably is? It's just a shared idea. Like,
hey, bro, you got to be careful what you wish for, because if Gavilar comes back from a statue, so will Teft. So will Teft. They'll be like, oh, what, you can do that? Awaken my buddy Teft.
What if Teft is the champ for the good side or something? I don't know. Now we're just getting ridiculous.
They just turned into a cardboard cutout of themselves, essentially.
I'm just saying, don't. I just feel like them being soul casted in the statues has to matter.
Like, I agree. I 100% agree.
It feels like too fine of a detail to not result in something.
I always loved that thing. I was like, that's genius to get the accurate statue. Genius.
What if it pays off in like book 8 in 30 years? Now that would be crazy.
Hey, I'll be the first one talking about it.
I'll be dead, but
yeah.
I'll be here in spirit. I'll be in my own soul casted statue.
I'll visit your soul casted statue and I'll say,
just me with both middle fingers lifted in the air.
That would so be it. Yeah, with a copy of A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah. He's gonna finish, I swear.
That's your tombstone. Died waiting for a dream of spring.
When's it coming?
Yeah.
When's ADOS coming? So
hey, we should talk about this ending. Hey,
I mean, we kind of covered it, right? The statues, 2 Sprons there.
Look, Light Song, great arc, amazing death.
Yes.
I love little details about his flashback, seeing the Red Panther on the ship, and that was in his visions. That was very cool. And how, like, it seems like you get a lot of clues to what the Return can do with their breaths. The fact that they get dreams and see a bit of the future is like that's a Cosmere thing that you can see into the future a little bit. Bit of a Renarin energy going on. So that was cool. So I don't know if there's more to say about Light Song, really. I was quite shocked with how brutal Sanderson went. He doesn't often do like a throat slitting kind of scene. That's pretty hardcore for a Sanderson book. But I appreciate it. I appreciate the shock value of it. I like seeing his brother being like, you are a god, you're the bravest man I knew. That's very sweet. For just like that is the highlight of the book for me, Light Song's arc. I like Vivenna's new mindset, and we have the full-on switch between her and Ciri. Like, Sanderson kind of outlined this in the, annotations. Vivenna's off avoiding her responsibilities of like her family and the royal thing to like find herself, just like Ciri is. And here is Ciri being a queen, finally.
Yeah, and a
And
new
so,
rule is beginning.
yeah. It felt a little, I don't know, there's something about it, that ending that felt like kind of Disney-esque. We're all up there looking over the valley. Yep, things are going to be different now. All right. Off to our new adventure. Like there's something a little, but it's like cheesy in a kind of a nice way. I don't have that much of a problem, but it did feel a bit like Disney movie, like the ending of Kung Fu Panda or something. I know that's
Yeah,
DreamWorks,
it
but
is. It's definitely a feel good. The princess
yeah,
still left home.
yeah.
That's not totally unfounded. I think it does have that little bit of
Mm.
a Disney feel to it.
Yeah, but dude, how about the action? Were you just frothing at the Sanderson action set pieces in this last little bit?
Yeah, it was good.
Oh man,
Very entertaining.
my favorite was when Vasha like took shirts and trousers and awakened them into full bodies, and they were fighting alongside him. That
Yeah,
was so sick. That was so freaking cool. Just like this
yeah, the
invisible
payoff.
person.
Yeah, the
But,
payoff for the magic and their skills and stuff. It works very well.
yeah, and the way that Susebron could just like awaken everything around him, and all these tassels are coming in, picking up people, choking them out. It's just there's so much potential. It's
There
just
really is.
just as much as Mistborn or Stormlight, and we've just like got such a little tease about it. Yeah, I don't know. I really want to go back. I really want to go back with. I could make a case for you could do like a Stormlight-esque series in this world. You could do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's plenty because, like, I mean, we're really in this one little region, but we've talked about how there was other stuff hinted at the forest or whatever it was, and then the northern region, and like, yes, you could write an epic fantasy 4 or 5 books here, fairly easy, I think.
I liked getting the tidbits about the 5 scholars and where this all began, and how they were these 5 like hundreds of years ago figuring out how all this stuff works. Sanderson said he's not going to go back there and do a book or explain it. He's just going to leave it at this.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I don't think we need any more. I am a little curious about Shashara and like Denth as like siblings, and how Vasha, all how they all interrelate. But now that he's dead, it's just like, well, that's done. So
Bye, Dan.
Yeah.
See you, bud.
Later. See you, buddy. But look, a strong, like, very cool moments in the ending. I think where it falls a little flat is just like it kind of peters out at the end. It's just kind of like, and then everything was okay. And
yeah, like there's consequences, especially for the characters and like what they're new. But like, I think I don't know. It's like Ciri shows up. Like, I never really thought that Ciri was not going to end up being queen. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of felt like, and obviously it's a reread, but I even remember the first time I read it, I wasn't like shocked by Ciri's outcome at all.
No. And I think like what I was most invested in was the character arcs. So like Vivenna and Ciri and Lightsong reach their full arc. And then it's about the Pahn Kahl rebellion, which I didn't really care about. Like, the political climate wasn't at the forefront of my mind in this book. It was all about the people, right? Okay, like, they're going to war, blah, blah, blah. This small state is going to infiltrate and stuff.
But yeah, and also there's servants there, and then the servants are going to, overthrow. Yeah. There is this weird thing. It kind of links to the part Shendi, right? It's towards the end of Way of Kings, when they're like, oh, these people have been our servants. Think about everything they're entwined in. And it's like a repeating thing in Sanderson's stuff.
Yeah. It's like the subjugated servant uprising.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I was still surprised though that the priests were like not sus. I'm like, oh, they weren't part of this? Okay.
Like, wait, what?
Yeah, like actually trying to, like, I was still shocked. I was like, oh, I thought Trellides was, maybe he's just annoying.
Maybe that's part of it though. It's like, it is a shock, but maybe it wasn't the right move. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes the easy answer is the right answer.
That like the priests were sus, and
if it had been the priest, that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe the twist because, like you said, like, you're not really invested in this in the servants. You know what I mean? In the people. What are they called? I always forget what they're called.
Pahn Kahl.
Pahn Kahl.
Yeah.
and maybe that just did not have that kind of consequence that we were looking for, whereas the priest would have.
Yeah, he said like, sorry, I read a lot of these annotations this week.
Clearly,
because that's all my takes are from that. But he was saying like the Pahn Kahl Rebellion twist was like a very delicate move that he had to pull off, because he's like, I wanted to keep them like pretty indistinct and unremarkable in the book to make a shocking twist, but I didn't want to make it so unremarkable that you don't care. For me, like, yeah, it's a cool twist, but I was not invested in it. So
yeah.
And in the end, it turned out to be kind of fine. So it's like a brief moment of, oh, wow, what's going to happen? Oh, okay, they got the commands. They're going to stop the army. It's all good. You know, within like
maybe a straight POV from that side would have been interesting. But like, again, it's one book. So
like a little interlude, the Pahn Kahl interlude.
Yes, it's something.
Something's missing. Like something is a little bit missing with that twist. It may be a bit more groundwork, or a bit more like he tries to explain the telegraphing. You know, like, oh, like Bluefinger's made a face when she asks if they worship the gods. It's like, yeah, okay, I don't know, but maybe more was needed to be done. But regardless, I really enjoyed Warbreaker, man. I'm glad we did it. I feel like we've done our homework. Now we can enjoy.
Yeah, and I'm going to read off 11 times Warbreaker connects into Stormlight. And
let's do it.
For all of you listeners, I know some of these are extraordinarily basic, like Zahil being Vasher, but like I just want to read through them. I just want to go through it. If we miss any, you can send us a Spanreed and tell us, but I will read these. And these are coming from the Cosmere subreddit. They are a great resource most of the time, so shouts out to them. So the first one is Zahil is actually Vasher. Clues include his many color-based expressions. The game he plays in Chapter 44 in Words of Radiance, which strikingly resembles Lightsong's game. And he shows that, and then he shows he can sense people in Spren and Interlude I6. When he says to Kaladin that he wishes he had made the choice that would help him sleep better at night in Chapter 81. He's likely referring to when he killed his wife, Shashara, shortly after the creation of Nightblood, or some other choice related to the many war. Which is cool. Yeah. And then Hoyd mentions that he has perfect pitch in Chapter 59 of Words of Radiance, meaning that he is of at least the second heightening, which requires about 200 breaths, roughly.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Shardblade that Nail gives Zeth in Chapter 88 of Words of Radiance is actually Nightblood.
You don't say. Okay. Yeah.
Now, in Oathbringer, there's a lot here. So in Oathbringer, the painting that Kaladin sees in Chapter 102 is from the Court of the Gods and Nalthis, or Nalthis, however you want to say it.
Nalthis,
it is possibly the same painting that troubled Lightsong.
I would love to read that. Someone did mention that actually in our comments.
Yes, I saw that, and that is really interesting here.
Yeah.
Why is that painting?
Why is that painting there? Very curious to see that.
Very curious. Nightblood features prominently in all of Zeth's POVs. It makes references to Vasher, Vivenna, Shashara, and Vera Trelades, aka Denth.
Yeah.
And some of the effects of drawing Nightblood that are familiar from Warbreaker. We also see Vasher again in Eothero Chapter 16 of Oathbringer. Azure, as we know, is Vivenna. She used Awakening to support the wall guard and prepares to use it when facing the Fused in Chapter 110 of Oathbringer. Her hair changes color shortly after arriving in Shadesmar and explains that she used Shadesmar to travel to Roshar a year prior. She also makes a few strange color idioms and suggests that she has connections to royalty. Her unusual Shardblade has created with Awakening, though the nature of that is unknown as of now.
So she's awakened her own blade, which is very cool. That I forgot, actually, that she had an awakened blade.
Here's one I've never seen before.
Okay.
Dawn Shard. The Dawn Shard causes Risen to experience several effects similar to the heightenings associated with breath.
Nice. Okay. Like perfect pitch and colors getting brighter. Remember? Yeah.
And then Warbreaker in Rhythm of War, there's only one. And it says Nightblood is used to kill Rays. II's notes.
Hey man, we have Kaladin versus Vasher in Rhythm of War. How does that?
That is true, but they didn't feel like it was worth showing.
Fair enough. Okay.
So someone's notes also mention Nalthis, and Zahil uses Awakening in his fight against Kaladin and explains that he is a cognitive shadow. So there it is. And the coin Adolin gives Kaladin and some merchants in Lasting Integrity are also from the Warbreaker planet. Endowment is referenced in chapter 24, epigraph in Rhythm of War, and Odium tampers with Hoid's breaths in the epilogue.
Yes, because it's interesting. Like that whole epilogue.
Oh yeah, major.
Right, so like he stored memories in breath, which is an interesting thing there. That's you know what, I have that's my biggest video on YouTube talking about that epilogue, and my thumbnail says "Who tricked who," and at least once a week I still get a guy being like, "It's who tricked whom." Okay. And it's like I got that comment day one, but I was just like, I like the symmetry of who and who in the thumbnail, so I'm just gonna leave it. And I still people are telling me to fix it. I refuse.
Sometimes an artistic lens has to bend. You know, you got to be able to bend things.
It increases clicks because people want to correct my grammar in the comments. So
boom. See,
YouTuber secrets.
That's like when people tell you on YouTube to like put something weird in the background or change something about your parents and don't reference it, you know?
Yeah. So what have you got back there?
Bobby B. It's always Bobby B. It's always Bobby Baratheon. We only have one Spanreed today. We have plenty, but like we only have time for one. Then we're going to pick one that I think is a hard hitter here. And it's from Tony K. And it says, "Greetings, Kremlings. I challenge you to look at the new King Charles portrait and not immediately think of Lightsong's favorite art piece. You're welcome, Tony." Thanks, Tony.
I love that. You're welcome. Because I somehow missed this portrait and I Googled it right after your email, Tony, and I cracked the hell up.
I mean, brilliant. It kind of looks like Kaled from Elden Ring. It also kind of looks like the Ghostbusters 2 painting.
I'm gonna out myself. I haven't seen Ghostbusters, so.
Well, it's connected to the Cosmere, so you better.
Yep, I'll start watching.
Cognitive realms all over.
It does have a bit of an Elden Ring boss effect.
Oh yeah, no, it literally looks like a Kaled painting. Yeah, there's a painting.
Yeah. Oh, major Kaled energy. That's where I DNF'd Elden Ring because I'm a reasonable human being. Jeez.
Hey.
Okay, mate.
DLC's in a month. I can't wait.
Dude, everything's in a month. Everything is in it. We got House of the Dragon. We got The Bear Season 3. We've got I guess Elden Ring DLC.
Yeah, we got a big summer. But you know we have next week?
What's that?
Words of Radiance.
I'm like, what? What could it be? Hell yeah, man. Oh, guys, this podcast's going to hit a new level as we hit into Season 2.
Season 2 of Lost in Roshar.
Oh, man. Our art pieces are almost done. One to go. And let me tell you, Jimmy and I are astounded with the results.
Very
you guys
impressive.
are gonna love them. They look so sick. And I can't wait to see our last one. But yeah, man, I'm excited to start something fresh. We've been doing this a long time now. We're heading up on a year, actually. Next month will be our year anniversary.
Crazy.
Lost in Roshar. Pretty wild.
See, we did Way of Kings under a year, and we had a couple weeks where we didn't even record because of life. So
yeah,
pretty good clip. We're running out of material before the 10-year gap, so we'll figure that out.
We gotta slow down. Yeah, so Words of Radiance will be one paragraph a week. Thank you for supporting this change. But like a part of me is like, damn, we're not gonna make it. It's not clean. Like we're gonna be at chapter 30 and we're gonna be like, all right, see you later, Words of Radiance. It's time for Wind and Truth. You know?
Hey,
but
that's okay. That's okay.
Can you imagine if we just were stubborn? You know how mad people would be if we just kept reading Words of Radiance, we never referencing Wind and Truth.
There'll be at least one person mad that we took a break from Words of Radiance. At least one.
Do you think? No.
Yes.
No. Nobody will be bad about that.
Okay, well, you have to remember that it's not just going to be like one episode. I mean, we're going to do the pre-release chapters. We're going to. It's going to be an interesting time.
I'm going to be cooking over Christmas, man, with like the amount of theory videos I'm going to have to like burn out. Because the thing was, like,
you're going to take some time off.
Oh, dude, like when I just finished Rhythm of War, I was making so many videos, and now like I've kind of got to think like, oh, what could I make a theory video on? I feel like we've done all the big theories, but we're gonna have so much to talk about.
I think it's going to be a lot of reevaluation, talking about, well, what did we get right? What did we get wrong? You know, you have a great opportunity to do. Book 5 is out. Which of my videos stand the test of time, right? Like, how did I do?
Yeah, that would be fun. I would love to get a compilation of all our terrible takes from Lost in Roshar, like all our bad predictions.
Yeah, I'm full of them. I usually try to take the least accurate route.
I'd love to see like an hour compilation of people getting the champion wrong. That'd be so good. But hey, that's how it is in these big fantasy series. I'm excited. It does feel like Stormlight season again. Something about it's getting colder here in Australia. That's when I was reading it initially. Feels right.
Nice. And, you know, it's funny. I read Way of Kings during a summer when I was moving, and it's about to be summer here. So it is indeedy Rudy. It is Stormlight season.
But hey, guys, thank you for joining us on our journey with Warbreaker. We'll be back to the real meat and potatoes here next week. God. Remember, the most important chapter a man can read is the next one. We'll see you next time as we jump into the GOAT, Words of Radiance.
And if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, be sure to leave us a review on whichever platform you listen on. And if you have questions or theories, Spanreed us at lostinroshar@gmail.com. We'll see you next time on Lost in Roshar. And remember to keep that safe hand covered.